Uh, uh,
How you doing, pal?
What's happening?
Oh man, got to do my taxes today. That was fucking great.
Rather go see the proctologist than that.
Yeah, I think I would too, right? I mean,
That's
there's
that's
a
that's
chance,
that's losing sleep a couple days before the meeting.
right? Well, at least that pain goes away,
No,
right?
not until that check clears.
Yeah, right.
then,
Yeah.
then you go, well, we got to do this again real soon. I'm probably sure.
Mhm.
Every year,
doing,
I
man?
say, I'm going to put money aside. I'm going to put money aside. I'm going to put money aside.
Mm. Yeah.
Always
Hey,
fails.
hey, Randy had some decent points.
Yeah, I was
I'll
thinking
check
that
it
too.
out.
I was thinking that too. And then the other thing I was thinking is I said, I know we got the shooting today, that's probably pretty prime that everybody kind of wants to talk to, talk about. So I thought maybe we kind of lead with that a little bit to kind of, I mean, it's on every newscast in America now. So, I think I feel bad if we take the same day it happened and didn't mention anything about it. So, it's just
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And it's right here at Arlington.
Yep, it's in our backyard. It's in our
And
backyard.
well,
It's just a shame.
and I get the feeling you're pretty conservative too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
because like I was just talking to one of my friends and she's back and forth. She's a real moderate,
Mm-hmm.
and she was like, what can we do about it? I go, there's only one thing we can do. I mean, they can have the kids walk through freaking, just like we do going to an airport or everything else at school, but quit with all this. We need to have stricter gun laws. We have the most gun crime wherever we have the most gun laws. Wonder why that is. How weird. And here's what I'll say to anybody, because they just like think, oh, they're just going to get rid of all the guns and we'll be safe. But the criminals are never giving up their guns.
That's what I said. It's a black market. All you're doing is feeding the black market.
Exactly. So think about this. It's easy. So here's what I say. As soon as we can get rid of all the illegal drugs, we'll be able to get rid of the gun.
They'll be throwing dirt on us. We'll be long gone off this earth before that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right.
No,
you're right.
There's no way we're getting every drug off of this planet. I mean, heck, marijuana might as well be legal anyway.
It is. And hey, nobody that's stoned is walking into school shooting a bunch of people.
Nope.
I mean,
nope.
And he wasn't a very good shot because he didn't kill anybody.
Yeah, that's the good thing. Somebody's grazed, I mean, I'm thinking that many shots and nobody's really, near death. That's amazing.
Right.
That's,
it is. What I didn't see what the gun was. Did you see?
It said it looked like a 45 is what I saw on the news just a moment ago. So
it was a handgun?
Yeah, it's a handgun. And they found it, I guess, a few streets away from the school in Grand Prairie. So, and then shortly after that, he turned himself in with an attorney.
Can you see that picture of my kids?
Yes, I saw those this weekend, man. Your daughter's at Tech too?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Guess what?
That's what I thought. Man, that's a great shot. I didn't know you
on
had
this trip.
Yeah, I love it, man. Good stuff.
Well, I had them all to myself for a whole weekend, and we figured out what to do to stop these mass shootings.
What's that?
That's not it. Shoot back.
Yes, that'll work. And go to the gun range and perfect your aim. So that we can limit how many shots need to be shot. Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, good deal, man. Well, we'll try to rapid fire it. I'll try to keep it on. I got my stopwatch here, so we'll try to go and get it out and get it done. But yes, and you let me know when you're ready and we'll get started.
Okay, so where are we starting?
I guess we'll start with the shooting, and then I thought we'd go to the baseball since we had a game last night, unfortunately. And then then I end with the football. I mean, we had some college stuff. I mean, the college football season's really, really crazy right now. If you would have said that Florida, Clemson will have multiple losses now, Notre Dame's got a loss, and OU looks like crap, man, those preseason polls look like a disaster right now, man. And Cincinnati is in the catbird seat right now to get to the playoffs, and it's not even Halloween. You know, it's crazy to me. It's crazy this year how it's looked.
It is. So how much of that do you think has to do with COVID and the year of?
I think it's had a lot to do with that and the transfer portal. I just think you'd have had so many exits off of your team plus graduation. You know, you could have had 30 people no longer on your team that were there last year easily. You know, so I think you're bringing in a bunch of young pups that are playing and maybe some guys that are not ready to play just yet, you know, maybe need a little bit more seasoning, get a little stronger. And you're just throwing them out there and saying, hey, next man up, you got to play. You know, our numbers are down. You know?
And with COVID rules, now you can have 23 and 24-year-olds out there.
Yeah. You know, you got the extra year of COVID, you got the, you know, being able to transfer and being eligible immediately. So, I mean, but, you know, and just, the, you know, the offset of that, though, is you looked at that portal, there is over 1,000 athletes in that portal that do not have a scholarship right now. That's amazing to me. You know, so I guess these guys are thinking, hey, this is the, you know, free, you know, I'm going to go in a portal, I'm a free agent again. Man, there's not a whole lot. Some of those guys are not getting any calls. You know, so you kind of overestimated your hand a little bit. So, you know, I don't know how you fix that. I mean, because in the bottom line, we're supposed to have student athletes to get an education. So if the athlete doesn't have a place to go to college, he doesn't have education unless he's paying for it on his own dime. I don't know. I don't know how you fix it. I mean, I just really don't. I don't know how you fix that problem, but I guess people smarter than me have to, because it's become an ongoing thing where a lot of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds are making some horrific decisions because they're not playing maybe their freshman or sophomore year. You know, that now, you know, it's, I understand the intent of it, I guess, if a college, you know, if your coach leaves or whatever, you know, they're saying that, hey, this new regime's coming in, they may not like me. I get it for that purpose. Or if you had a situation where a family member, you know, gets sick or ill or whatever, you want to move close to home, you know, I feel like that's okay, warranted. But man, I mean, you know, it just stinks that there's some people out there now that are not playing at all and can't afford college. You know, I don't know. It's weird, man. It's weird. It's weird. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't, man. It's a balancing act. I don't know what the solution is.
I don't know that there is one, but I know this. Last year, McLennan Community College won the national championship for baseball.
Yes.
That coach did not sell out like so many other coaches did and go out. I watched the game between Grayson and Seminole State. Grayson had a 23-year-old third baseman, a 21-and-a-half-year-old shortstop, that was the youngest guy in the infield, a 22-and-a-half-year-old second baseman, and a 24-year-old first baseman. This is a junior college. Okay.
They're playing a minor league team.
Well, you know what? Okay, so I'm watching this game with a scout for the Nationals, and he goes, Billy, I'm not sure our big league infield isn't younger than
Junior
this
college.
junior college,
Junior college.
except for the old guy on his team, Trey Turner, all right, was playing shortstop. Everybody else was 23 or less. And it was just like, wow, we're at a junior college game and that's happening.
Unreal. I mean, what do they do? Do they play at Rivershawn for like 2-3 years and then decide to go to college? Like,
Well, no, it was just like you're talking about. It was portal transfer land. It was the third baseman came from A&M. He played 2 years at Texas A&M. And then he decides to transfer to a JC. I mean,
now I do know that the JCs, I know in baseball especially, I know they're popular because they can give you more money, than most of your, Division ones can because of that. So I know that they become I know you're good. But I just didn't know you could go to a university for 2 years and play and then go to a junior college. That's mind-boggling to me.
It's effed up, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking, you're thinking at the worst case scenario, the guy has got 24, 12, 36 hours of college at a university to be eligible for 2 years.
Yeah. So what do you study in at Grayson?
That's if you failed everything your spring half of that second year. Good. That's mind-boggling. So what is he taking at a junior college? Oh.
Now, so now I saw a place where it made sense. I was at a tournament. in the Houston area, and there's a pitcher I liked, man. I'm watching this guy, this kid for Alvin Community College, all right? I find out he's a 23-year-old Ivy League arm.
Wow.
He's actually pretty damn good, okay? And they weren't playing. Okay, so that I understood, right? The Ivy League wasn't playing because of COVID.
Yeah, that makes sense. Got shut down.
That one made sense. And I talked to his pitching coach because I said, well, and the NCAA is okay with that? He goes, I don't know. I don't care. He goes, we are. Yeah. We're okay with it. So
he's missing bats.
He can't
we'll learn about that later.
And they were letting him still take his classes at Harvard while playing baseball at Alvin.
Well, that seems like that's a workable thing there. I mean, if you're not able to play at a place and you're, they say you could come play here and you're still taking the classes where you're at, that seems more doable than a guy going to university for 2 years and then coming to a junior college.
I don't like it here at A&M. They don't play me very much. I'm going to go to junior college and screw over a bunch of young kids who went there because they knew they couldn't play at Texas A&M in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of, there's a lot to it. I mean, that should be an episode we do one day.
Yeah.
Really, like almost just on all these crazy rules. They keep changing.
That are, hurting the high school student big time. The high school graduate, excuse me.
Well, think about this. There are certain NAIA, Division II, Division III will allow released drafted players to play. There's certain rules and they change all the time. The last time I checked, for NAIA, you had to catch up to where you should be academically, which I thought was harsh but fair in a way, because it told you a kid really is a serious student. Right. So he obviously kept up doing online classes or whatever, and so they're going to let him come back and play. I like that. the Division II rule at the time was they can come back and play as long as they didn't sign with an agent. They're okay if the New York Yankees gave them $7 million, but lo and behold, if they sign with an agent, they're terrible.
You're pariah.
What the hell is that all about?
You're the Antichrist. The agent is the Antichrist. But hey, here's $2.3 million.
It is in football. It is in football and probably in basketball too. But in baseball, all we do is help.
It doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make
You
any
know,
sense.
It doesn't. No, I sat next to an athletic director in our state at one of the most prominent universities. I'm not going to say which one. And he looked me in the eye and said, Billy, and you're not allowed to talk to the players, are you? And I said, yes, I can talk to them and they can actually listen to me and talk back.
Yeah.
It's completely legal. But I'm not allowed to buy them a soda pop.
Right.
I'm not allowed to buy them anything. I can't even get them free tickets to a game that a player leaves me because that would be considered an inducement.
Inducement, right.
And this athletic director didn't know that, but partially because they are so beaten down with football and basketball agents because they all cheat, because they all want their guys to lose their eligibility, and then they have to declare themselves eligible for the draft.
And their brows are beaten by the compliance departments of their universities saying no, 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 no all the time when there's an agent involved, so they just assume it's across the board that way,
Yeah.
Think one way.
So how's this new rule? How's this new rule with NLIs gonna help that?
Right.
That's just gonna make it worse. That's gonna make agents that much bigger. It's insane.
Corruption's going to happen any way you look at it. We're not going to be able to stop corruption. I mean, you could try to curtail it as much as you want to, but somebody's always going to bend that damn rule. Somebody's always going to skate in that gray area and go across it. There's just no way of getting around it. There's no way. It's called greed. Greed's been here since day one of this earth, buddy. And you know what? It's not going away either. It's not. It's just not.
Nope.
Good deal. Let's get started, man. All righty. 1, 2, and 3. Hello, everybody. Kenny Matthews, your host here on Balls to the Wall, episode number 8. My sidekick here, Billy Martin Jr. How you doing, buddy?
I am 8 times better than the last time you talked to me.
That's awesome. You got to spend some time with the kiddos this past weekend, man. Congratulations. I know you're a proud papa after this weekend, weren't you?
I am, and I just we were working on our handgun maneuvers to protect ourselves from the mass shootings going on here in Arlington, Texas.
No kidding. We do appreciate you guys listening to us. I mean, we could get you to subscribe to us on YouTube, FridayNightGlory.com also. It takes less than 10 seconds. Please put that subscription for us, man. We appreciate it. That way we can keep bringing you some more live content and keep getting better and bigger as we go. Our man Nick Harris, sidekick, he's been gone the last few weeks. He's up there and he's on assignment for UT today. They got a signing of a wide receiver today that he had to go to the Panhandle this morning and take care of for 247 Sports of University of Texas. So we still want to give you a shout out, Nick. Yeah, I know you're busy. You keep making that money, but you're doing a great job with them. So I'm very proud of you, buddy. Very proud. We'll start this off, hey, it's the story of the day. We're taping here on Wednesday night, obviously here. And, the shooting out at Mansfield Timberview this morning, everybody kind of put their coffee down and put their jaws down saying, what happened again, a shooting at a school. You almost become numb to this, Billy, now. It used to be, horrific. It still is, but I mean, you were, you almost passed out if you heard somebody getting shot at a school. Now you're almost kind of getting a little numb to it now. It just seems like more commonplace. It's like, what's going to happen. You just don't know when now. And, it's kind of a shame because I just think that, we need to do something that, makes the person not want to shoot at a school anymore. There seems like the penalty's not harsh enough for that, the retribution to it. And I don't know how we get around that, Billy. I really don't. But, I can't imagine not being able to get in touch with your kids, knowing this is plastered all over the news across America. And you couldn't get through to your child wondering, is my kid being shot? For that period of time, you would think the heart would just almost stop for a period of time, but certainly you and I both being fathers.
No, absolutely. I mean, I had a 27 minutes of hell when I couldn't get to my 12-year-old because a tornado went through my neighborhood.
Wow.
And I was at the store buying him some tennis shoes, thinking that would cheer him up. He was homesick from school.
Wow.
And literally couldn't get within 2 miles of my house. I had to run, and it was terrible, but he was okay and everything. But that 27 minutes of hell,
yeah,
I understand what so many of these parents must feel like. And look, it's time to step up and say, every school needs a metal detector when you walk through the door.
Yes.
Why not?
Yeah.
We can't get rid of guns. We'll never be able to get rid of guns.
No.
The black market will always bring guns around.
Absolutely.
But and it's our Second Amendment. It's our right to carry guns. We don't want criminals or idiots to have guns. So let's put metal detectors in. Maybe let's even think about armed guards. There was an attempted shooting at a school about 4 years ago that the media chose not to cover, but the shooter suddenly had 2 security guards pointing guns at him before he could make it to the cafeteria with his shotgun.
Right.
He didn't know what to do, so he stuck the shotgun in his mouth and killed himself. Saved us all that taxpayer money from putting him in prison,
yes,
from court costs. We just had to, the poor janitor had to clean the blood up. That was the only bad thing. But nobody got hurt but him. And that's the way it should be.
Yeah, there has to be some kind of deterrent. I went on a couple of chat boards a little bit during lunch, and I saw some of the back and forth between the people saying, hey, having a metal detector or, sniffing dogs, walking through the hallways for those kind of things. One of the arguments was there, well, that, you can still bring it in your car. He said the kid still could have just waded into the parking lot and did this same thing to the person in the parking lot of the car where he never, entered into the school, which is a very valid point. But again, my point comes into all of this is that if you did have some more stepped up security and allow them to be able to do that on a more free basis, maybe that might just be that moment where they don't pull the trigger because they have a gun pointed at them also. And that's really the bottom line. We just don't want them to pull the trigger. I don't think you can really stop this. People are going to pull guns out. I mean, people in our day, they pull out a switchblade, and they thought that was like a big deal. Oh, he whipped out a switchblade. You're always going to have somebody doing that. We just need to have a deterrent where they don't pull the trigger, Billy. And that to me is the biggest crime of it all.
No, and you're right. And if they can't get a gun, they're going to drive a truck into the football game as fast as they can. They're going to try to make a bomb. They're going to try to poison people. I mean, there's no solution for crazy people.
No.
We're going to have crazy people. And so I say we talk about sports. And
yes, I will say this. I do want to say lift up the victims in prayer, though. I will say that, hey, the innocent bystanders there, we lift you up in prayer. We hope that everything works out. It sounds like there's nothing life-threatening, so that's the real good thing. And as you said off camera, thank God it was a bad shot.
It's right.
because it
That
could
might
have
have
been a
been the
lot
worst
worse.
mass shooter in history, right?
So maybe it was a little, maybe his eyesight was off, maybe it wasn't, whatever it was. Thank God the bullets, that did do it, that didn't cause life-threatening issues. So yes, we do need to get the sports. And hey, we have fall baseball here. I mean, wow. I mean, we had an electric Fenway Park last night. I think I heard Fenway 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon, all the way in Dallas. You want to talk about those Bostonians ready for the Yankees to come in town? They were ready last night. That was the atmosphere we missed last year that you and I talked about in a couple episodes before. It was there, and this is the reason why I tell people that fall baseball is awesome, because you never get that energy that you got last night, especially in a one and done game.
It as much as it drives me crazy, it also excites me at the same time, right? Because here you've got these two teams that have been up and down. They're arch rivals from the turn of the century, when the Yankees leased the Red Sox for Babe Ruth for $100,000 to, so that the owner could put a show out called No No Nanette. I mean, this history goes back to one game, and Bucky Dent was there at the game. The Red Sox were calling Bucky F and Dent.
Bucky,
he said, "Look, I'm hiding."
Bucky O F and Dent is what they call it.
Right? But that's what it, and it's half sad and half exciting for me that those two were going at it like they were then. But there is a weirdness to me that now Boston, after winning that monstrous game, has to go play their division rival, Tampa. And it's even weirder when you break it down from the National League side, right? We got a great game coming out tonight.
Right.
And so if the Dodgers win this game,
they're going to play
the Dodgers, who have the second best record in all of baseball, will have to go play the team with the first best record in all of baseball.
That doesn't seem fair at all.
Weird about that.
You win 106 games, and you got to play somebody that wins 107 in the divisional round. Not, I'm like, that just doesn't make any sense to me at all. I wish they would change that. But even think about this. The Dodgers will have to play another story team tonight in the Cardinals. I mean, we spoke about the Cardinals last week, about their tradition.
Who's hotter than the Cardinals in all of baseball right now?
They've won 18 out of 19 down the stretch. They're going up against the 40-year-old who's pitching like he's 26 and Wainwright tonight. And then you turn around and have to play another storied team in baseball, Laurel, in the San Francisco Giants. I mean, you're going to earn your keep if you do get to the pennant. I mean, you've earned your keep here, and you won 106 games, and you got zero reward for it. I mean, you really did. I mean, it's unreal. I mean, I heard somebody say the other day that the Dodgers are the first team since the turn of the century Cubs, 1903 or 1904, to win 105 games and not win the division.
Wow.
That's just mind-boggling to me. I mean, there's not many teams that win 100 games and don't win the division, first thing. I mean, that just normally doesn't happen. I mean, we had the Giants, I guess, back in 93, I think it was, is when they won 101 or something. They lost on the last game of the season and, to the Dodgers. It's just, people don't realize how hard it is to win 100 games, and people also don't realize how hard it is to lose 100 games too. That 100 is a big number in baseball either way.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's what a crazy year. But the fact that it's the Giants is still, I love it. I know we broke it down on here. Literally, if we could trade any one position for going forward as a general manager of baseball, other than Chris Bryant over Justin Turner at third base.
Yeah.
Maybe that a guy tried to make an argument for Crawford over Seager to me yesterday because he's been more durable or this or that. I'm like, okay, but if you're a general manager of a major league team and you can get either one of those guys, which one are you getting for your future? And
Seager.
But yet he did it. And so if Gabe Kapler isn't manager of the year, if Farhan Zaidi isn't GM of the year, we've got some issues going on.
Yes, we need to be pulling some voters' rights away. They don't need to be voting any longer. I should be saying, I'm a big fan of that. Whoever didn't vote Derek Jeter on that Hall of Fame list, that's a guy that needs to get really, checked and going, well, what part of his game didn't speak Hall of Fame? I don't understand. And so he's not a Hall of Famer this year, but he's a Hall of Famer next year, but the stats don't change. The highlights don't change. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. I mean, Mario and Rivera should not have been the only person that should have been unanimous across the board on everybody. For the person that didn't vote for Hank Aaron or Willie Mays the first time around, that's just mind-boggling to me. I know we're getting a little off subject, but it's about voters, and I think sometimes voters think that it's about them instead of what they're aimed to do. Their job is to vote, not to make it about them. You can make it about yourself in every article you write going forward, but when that Hall of Fame comes up there, he's a Hall of Famer, and if you have to think about it, then he's probably not a Hall of Famer. That's the way I look at it.
Well, and there are some weird cases. There are the Don Mattingleys or the Thurmansons, who are a couple of the best players not in my opinion right now.
Yeah,
Thurman's plane crash kept him from making it.
Right.
He puts up another 3 years of the numbers he'd been doing. He's a lock. Don Mattingly's back.
Absolutely.
Don Mattingly's back.
Absolutely.
Cost him. But yet the Hall of Fame said, hey, Kirby Puckett's eye injury cost him 3,000 hits, which he would have got for sure.
Sure.
And look, I think Kirby Puckett was absolutely a Hall of Famer. And I don't mean that, but it's just
what you're saying. You just
me how
it's an analogy.
How's his eye any different than Thurman's plane crash or Donnie's back? So we either need to take the it is or it isn't stance with those kind of things. But there are a lot of things. There are certain guys that are in the Hall of Fame that maybe shouldn't be because of one amazing moment or
compilers. I call them compilers. Guys that lasted a long time so they compiled numbers. Doesn't mean that they were great for a period of time, very good for a long period of time. And I guess my definition of Hall of Fame is great instead of very good.
Me too. To me, you have to be the best at your position in at least your league, if not the whole game, for 6 years.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
To be,
yes.
Oh man, that's the best second baseman in the game.
Right.
And then you have to have, I think you got to have it almost all, though. You got to have the duration. You got to have the greatness because, I don't think just because a guy had an amazing ability to play for 20 years at a really good level.
Right.
I don't think he's a Hall of Famer for me.
Here's my example. God rest his soul. He just passed last year. Don Sutton's must is right next to Sandy Koufax. They're right next to each other. There's a huge difference between those two pitchers. Just go look at the stats. The eyeball test tells you.
Well, in a silly way, it all breaks down to when we're little boys, right? And we're all sitting there, and they pick Kenny and Billy to be captains.
Right.
And who do we pick? You know, I mean,
Yep.
I'm guessing I know which of those two pitchers you're picking. I mean, you know, and that's how it should be done. They need to stick them out there with the other group of guys.
Absolutely.
And say, all right, which one? Pick these guys in order.
Yeah.
Pick these pitchers in order. Which are your starting pitchers? And then when you realize how far down that list he is, maybe he's not a Hall of Famer.
Maybe he's not. Absolutely. I agree. I did want to get off on the subject on that, but I think it's a great topic for another day for sure. You know, the Hall of Fame, because I think it in a lot of sports, it's the same way. You know, we got veterans communities now, committees that are voting players down the line. And I get that there's some people that slip through the cracks. Don't get me wrong. I do. But, you know, I'm not quite so sure that Harold Baines, he's sitting next to Hank Aaron, you know, at Cooperstown. I'm just, you know, I have a slight problem with that, you know, but that's okay. I mean, I understand, you know, they're trying to get more people involved and all that, but I do think it does kind of minimize the achievement of some really, really pioneer greats of the great game when you're putting people that are just compilers, is what I call it, people that hung around a long time and banged out a lot of hits, you know. And, you know, was Harold Baines ever a top 5 player in any given year?
No, that how many times you have taken him over everybody else in the same league he was in at his position? You know, that to me is one of the things that should be a criteria. And it's the Hall of Fame. It's like, how famous were they? When you say the name, how many people really know that name? And I don't know, but you can take it to other sports, right? Like, I hate to say this, but I don't think Franco Harris was a Hall of Fame running back. I think he played for the best offensive line in NFL history, and he ran through holes that we could have ran through.
But he's got a bullet point that you said, your immaculate reception.
Yep, and he had that amazing, oh my God, one of the top plays in NFL history. And he was great. Don't get me wrong. He was a great player, but there's a difference between being great and a Hall of Famer.
I agree wholeheartedly. Could not agree more. I do want to get who do you have in the World Series, and who do you have winning the World Series?
Oh.
I'll tell you mine. I'll let you think about it. I've
already changed my mind twice in the last week. I mean, I don't think I can not pick the Giants right now, which it goes against everything in my grain, right?
Yep.
We just said man for man on almost every team in the playoffs. I'm picking but that tells you what kind of magic they have going on there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean,
I'm hoping the 4 days or 5 days off doesn't cool them off either. You know, I really don't. You know, I really don't.
So here's something interesting. A friend who I really admire and respect said something the other day that, and he's an announcer. He's a AAA announcer, and he said, I think St. Louis is burnt out all their W's. I think they've just won so much lately that they're going to fade out.
Can't carry that momentum.
And I said, I don't think winning works that way. I think winning works the other way. I think if you're so used to winning like that, you don't ever feel like you're out of a game. We're down 6 runs. So what? We just won 17 in a row. up yours. We're going to beat your ass. I'm sorry. We're not done yet.
Yeah.
So, that's how many times do we see this wild card team who's never gotten enough sleep. Everybody's playing too much. Their arms are all beat up, but they keep winning while the team that gets all this rest, we wonder about, are they sleepy? But I think it just really has to do with that momentum you've built and that confidence you've pushed in your own chest.
And you got to think the Red Sox are thinking, well, hey, we had to win. They had to come from behind on Sunday at the Nationals just to get to that spot. Then you have a big emotional win yesterday. You take one day off, you go back in. They've already felt that buzz of the playoffs. Tampa's sitting over there now for 4 days. They didn't care if they won last Sunday or not at Yankee Stadium. They were like, hey, we're going home after the game. We've won our 100 games. We don't have to mess with this until Thursday. And you're going to get a team that's already experienced. Butterflies are gone now for the Red Sox when they step in Tampa Bay tomorrow. They've been there and done that. Yep. It's going to be hard for them to ratchet it up. I mean, and again, with Tampa Bay's, let's say, average starting pitching, I'll say average to be nice. I mean, there's nothing to ride home starting pitching wise. Now that back end, that bullpen is dynamite for them. But I mean, they don't have that staple guy that you're going to say is going to go out there. They don't have shouldn't use this, like the two from last night. I mean,
well, they're missing Flaherty, right? They're missing the guy that was supposed to be their ace.
Yeah.
Wainwright's been amazing.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I mean, what he's done for them, and they just
got another year extension this past week on it too, But yeah, I mean,
tonight's game's kind of exciting. I mean, because I'm not sure there's anybody I could pick over Max Scherzer for just one game right now.
Bad Max.
I mean, the guy is such a competitor. His eyes are different colors. I mean, because it drives him so crazy to lose. I think it turned his eyes different colors. But
did you read that in the Dallas Morning News today that the Dodgers will have two starting pitchers that will make their payroll is the same as the Tampa Bay's entire payroll? Kershaw and the guy that suspended him, his name, Bauer. Both of them will not play for the Dodgers, and they both combined make $76 million, the same as the payroll for the Rays.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm
real to me.
I wonder if we'll ever see Trevor Bauer play in the major leagues again.
That's definitely for another pod. Yes, but yeah, I'm not so sure either. That it's eye-opening. Let's say that the accusations against him, very eye-opening.
They are, but if you notice, very early in the accusations, his teammates all said they don't want him back. You know what? We don't want him back. Now, politically correctness says they were saying that about what he did. I'm not buying that BS, okay? I'm telling you right now, Kenny, that means he is a turd. That means he is a bad guy and a bad teammate. Because at the end of the day, with all these stories, the he said, she said stuff, there are always two different stories and two different sides. And I've seen it firsthand with clients that when a girl found out he was a professional baseball player, all of a sudden the story changed dramatically. And sometimes the girl's right. I don't mean it.
Right, sure. It's alleged. It's alleged. Alleged.
There is. And there were so many of these stories that I found out the truth, the other side, that, wow, what happened to Ben Roethlisberger?
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Was so wrong. There's so many like that, and I've been involved in some, but that tells you when that happens that early, what a bad guy he must be, because his own teammates are like, oh no, we don't want him back.
And it only took 3 months. It didn't take long. It didn't take long, man. It took, man, let me tell you, that bloom off that rose, boy, came off real quick, man, real quick. Well, I'll tell you, I've actually got the Dodgers and the Astros in the World Series, which would be Fox's just, I mean, for lack of a better word, a wet dream for them, ratings wise, to have those two teams playing there again. And I'm basically basing this on just moxie of both of those teams. I just think that, like you said before, nothing's too big for those guys. I will always go with those guys proven in the postseason that have done it before, time and time and time again, before the upstart, wondering if you're guys that are career year guys that haven't done it in the postseason before, where the bat gets a little bit tighter, where you grip the bat a little tighter, you grip the ball a little bit harder, you know, it flattens out instead of maybe a little bit more spin when you're delivering it, because it's the moment now. It's a different thing. There's a reason why Reggie Jackson may have been only a 268 career hitter. Yeah, he did hit 500 home runs, but he wasn't a 268 hitter come October. There's a difference. You have to have that. And the Dodgers and the Astros got a lot of that.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I mean, like I say, it drives me crazy picking Giants. It's just this weird gut feeling. I picked the Dodgers preseason. I picked the Dodgers before the year even started. And what do they do at the trade deadline? Oh, they go grab Max Scherzer and Trey Turner.
And probably to re-sign Max too. You know. I do want to say we hope that Kershaw has not thrown his last pitch. You know, Dallas's own here. I'm not saying that that's the case, but you know, Kershaw's got he's got 14 years in the big leagues now. He's had some injury problems here the last few times. They're saying no Tommy John for him right now, but you and I both know saying no Tommy John now doesn't mean that Tommy John's not coming. I mean, it's an easy way to make. Maybe you just say that so he doesn't become a distraction during the postseason, and then you find out sometime in late November that he's going to have Tommy John. You know, I'm not sure, but you hate that because he's been a class guy since the day he stepped on an MLB, field. He's handled everything with class. He's been a great warrior. He's taken it on the chin by his postseason, mishaps. He took all that, but he put a lot of that away last year in the postseason last year. He did put some demons away.
Yes, he did. I was so glad for him.
Yeah.
Right? Weren't you happy to see that, to see him kind of shake off that?
Yes.
Whatever that moniker that, because he's been so great and such a class act, does so many charitable things.
Yes. He's a human.
The only complaint I have at all, and I'm still mad at his mom, because when he was in high school, I tried so hard to get in their house and sit down with them. And that poor lady was juggling so many of us agents trying to get in the house. I never could get in. And
I'm glad you did bring up the one point. He is a humanitarian. Him and his wife, they have done on the charity side of things. It's been phenomenal. And you like the good guys that go out, on top, you really do. And you hate it when he got hurt. But, he's a guy that, obviously he won't have the win-loss record like a lot of Hall of Famers in the past because of the way the game has changed. But here's a guy that when you look, you go, Hall of Famer. 5 years from now, going to the Hall of Fame. There's no question about it, because for that decade or so, there was hardly anybody better than Kershaw during the regular season. They don't base the Hall of Fame completely on the postseason, but you know what I'm saying? For a decade or so, he's best. If he wasn't the best, he was second best. If he won, maybe he was 3 1 year, maybe 2 or 1. But if you do that for that long of a period of time, I think you're a Hall of Famer. And for that reason alone, I think he'll go in 5 years from his retirement date for sure.
Yeah. What's the deal with the Dodgers on that? Right? What the Kershaw, the Koufax, the Bueller.
Yeah.
I mean, who are you picking over Walker Bueller right now?
Yeah.
You could just pick a game. Like I said, I'd pick Scherzer for one game right now. But
and you haven't even mentioned
Ruiz.
Ruiz.
Guy for the next 5 years, I'm picking Walker Bueller.
And you might pick Ruiz. I mean, that guy's pitched like nails. And you had the local product that got hurt at the beginning of the year that had to go to Tommy John that was coming into his own, the local guy from Arlington. So, I mean, as long as I can remember, the Dodgers always had pitching. That's just been their moniker, and it's going to be that way forever. That nobody does any better in developing, pitching from day one all the way through your organization than the Los Angeles Dodgers. I mean, it's,
Okay, so if the Cardinals beat the Dodgers tonight, are you amending your choice to the Cardinals?
I will not amend it, but I will be the biggest Giant fan in the world. I'm telling you. I will try to. I will actually remember what their stadium name is instead of Pac Bell. I will learn it real quick. But yes, I'm cheering for the Giants to win. Yes. I am definitely cheering for the Giants to win. Am I cheering for the Astros to win? No, I'm not a Dodger fan or an Astro fan. I guess I'm just letting my mind speak to me that tells me those two teams look like the two best teams to me going into the tournament. That's just yeah.
Oh, you're right. And absolutely. And look, with the Astros, for what they went through, they want to do this to the whole world and say, guess what? We can also play even if we're not banging trash can lids.
Yes.
And they're great. They really are.
They seem to play better when people are against them. They seem to play better. Yeah, I mean, it's like a rally.
We all.
Yeah. It's like the Oakland Raiders of the day, back in the day. We're the hated franchise, blah, blah. And that seems to bring out the best of them somehow. And nobody's really talking about them winning it. So I think that they're in an ideal spot, especially if they get they get any starting pitching, in the playoffs. I have a big shot that they will get there for sure. But and I do want to tell you guys also to subscribe to us on YouTube, Balls to the Wall. Just go in there and sign up for us. We would greatly appreciate it. It only takes about 10, 15 seconds. That'll help us out tremendously. You also can do the FridayNightGlory.com also on YouTube that way, so we can continue to bring you the Balls to the Wall episodes that we love taping every week. It's the highlight of my week. I like to kind of get out here and get to see the face, get to see Billy Martin Jr. and his dad's picture in the background is always nice. Let's talk a little football. First, I'll go college quickly. We kind of talked a little off camera. I have not seen where the top preseason magazines, the preseason polls had said these teams are going to be this, and that. And you look up now and we've got Florida, 2 losses, Clemson, 2 losses, and Oklahoma team that looks unmotivated to play football right now. There's a major disconnect somewhere in Oklahoma there. And we have Notre Dame losing at home to the Cincinnati Bearcats last week, which I think now, if Cincinnati just takes care of business the rest of the way, the Bearcats are going to be one of the 4 teams in the playoffs at the end of the year. If you looked at their schedule, they're heavily favored in the rest of their games down the stretch. Big win at Touchdown Jesus last week. And to me, the score really wasn't indicative of how well they were beating Notre Dame in that game last week.
Yeah, they took it to them. And I think all this craziness, I'm going to go with the easy blame and blame COVID because things haven't been right. Things have been weird.
Yes.
All the fans and all that stuff matters. And so how do you pick these guys? We talked about it in baseball. How much easier was it for rookies to break in when there were no fans?
Yeah.
Right? Well, I'm sure football teams look markedly different when they don't have a ton of people screaming and yelling and going crazy out there. So
Absolutely.
it's hard for these guys to make their preseason predictions because they don't know. So again, we blame COVID for everything.
If I told you this, that Coastal Carolina, Wake Forest, and SMU, you all would be 5 or 6-0 right now in the season, you would have laughed me right out of the
I
chill.
still think you're lying. What are you talking about?
At the beginning of the year. I mean, it's my, and then we got Florida State 1-4 and looking miserable at 1-4. I mean, so it's, Oregon going to Stanford last week, and getting popped off, I mean, now does everybody just turn off the West Coast going forward now? I mean, if there was ever a team that needed to be playing well, I mean, to keep the Pac-12 relevant, it was Oregon winning. They had to continue to win because USC's already lost 2 games. And speaking of USC, they lose to Oregon State at home. I mean, so it's crazy. I'm not going to call it parity. I just think that there's so many football athletes now in this country that come out that you can field good teams, and especially teams that can keep their athletes there for 3 to 4 years. If you keep them in that program that long, you bring up, you can have that year where you're really good. You're really good.
What you just said too. And what you just said flows right into what I said earlier. COVID. Yeah. Now you can keep these players for 3 to 6 years.
Yes.
Because you can keep 37-year-olds on your football team now. And I'm slightly joking, but with the COVID rules, you got second-year seniors still being able to play. And that makes a big difference. And it's another thing where these poor guys trying to make predictions. How many guys are they looking back at and going, well, wait a minute, I didn't know he'd be that good in his 7th year.
I think I've read somewhere in Arkansas had 12 fifth-year seniors that could have left last year, and the coach talked them all to coming back for that next year. Now you're talking about, a 6th year of football for these guys, and in that program. So they've seen the 1-11 and the 2-10 or whatever. And for them to come back and then bring that veteran leadership to come back through there, that's huge because you don't have to coach them up as much. You're not spending so much of that delicate time coaching them because they kind of can coach themselves a little bit, or they can help you coach the younger guys.
They do, but they also bring a negative too, Kenny. So they also know that it's their last hurrah.
Yeah.
Right? They're not in the NFL now. They're not in the MLB, NBA.
Right.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
So they start to pick and snip and beat up on the younger guys. And
sure.
And they start to take the team chemistry down because of their bitterness. Because when you step in as a freshman and a sophomore, you're going to the NFL. You're going to the show, baby. Look out, right? And when you get to be where they're at, they know they're not.
Dose of reality.
They want to take guys down with them.
Yeah.
And I noticed something interesting in Texas junior college baseball this year. The McLennan team won the national championship, and they did not sell out for the older guys. They took freshman transfers like Rusty Greer, who used to play for the Texas Rangers' son, transferred from Auburn when he realized as a freshman he wasn't going to get a play. So he went to McLennan, but I mean, he's still a freshman.
Right.
They didn't get those old guys. I watched them playing against junior college teams that had 23 and 24-year-olds on the field. And early in the year, they didn't look as good. But you know what? Later in the year, they beat their butts because that young team started to put it together and realize we can do this, and we're a team, and we're hugging on each other. Whereas that factor I'm talking about beat down those older teams, and they started infighting.
Oh,
And
sours.
so, yeah, so let's give this 2 years before we hack on the preseason poll pickers too darn much, because I think it's going to take that long before they can figure this out.
Well, I do want to also want to share with us, talk about the Cowboy game. You got to take your mother to the Cowboy game. So you have to tell us about that. It's a great picture, great atmosphere, huge win. I mean, you just won right across the board, didn't you?
Come on. You know what? Football's fun for me. I get to just be a fan. I get to be a Cowboy fan. And I'll tell you what, man, they're better than I thought they were going to be. They really are. They are a legit football team. This isn't me just being a fan. This Dak is real. That offensive line, holy cow, man. And they have a pass rush now, something they've needed for a while. And they're still missing some components. I mean,
yeah,
I was starting to think Zeke might have turned the corner. Maybe they shouldn't have signed. I'm still not a big fan for signing running backs for big money, but Zeke still finds that way to lean forward and get that extra 2 or 3 yards every time you give him the football.
Right.
And this team's, I think they got a chance to be a Super Bowl team. I really do. Obviously, I'm a fan, so I'm a little biased. But, I mean, my favorite thing is I was sitting real close to Jerry Jones's booth, and I could hear him. And every time they got a first down, every time they scored, he'd turn over to Steven and say, "Up yours, Jimmy. Up yours." And I don't know where that came from, but I'm assuming he's talking about Jimmy Johnson. I don't
know. Well, they've constructed it. I mean, they've built it. You know, their defense is much better than a lot of people do. I mean, Diggs is playing it at all pro level. It's leading the league in interceptions.
The game.
The big problem for the Cowboys for a number of years is they weren't making turnovers. They're getting turnovers now, and if you get turnovers in short fields with that offense, you're going to score points. And, like you said, you got 3 key guys who are not even playing right now. I mean, Gallup and Collins and D. Lawrence, they're not even on the field for you guys right now. So, those would be nice chips to put back into the puzzle here when they, are healthy and can be back in there. And then, I think we talked a little bit last night, their division is porous. So, I mean, you're going to be able to rack up some wins, and you're going to be in a situation where you might be able to host obviously a first round game for sure. Might be able to host us, the second round game, or might be able to host an NFC championship game there at Jerry's World. And it seems like finally that atmosphere again, we talked about the Monday night game. It seemed like it was pretty festive again this past Sunday, at Jerry's World, where, it didn't just seem like a lot of fans were sitting on their hands. It seemed like they were actually paying attention to the game and not looking at their phones the whole time and getting involved into the game. So if you can make that stadium a home field advantage, that's huge if you can make it that way.
Well, the hardest thing there is to watch the field, not the big screen.
Yes, I know. Every time I go there, I watch it on the big screen. It never fails. I went to the Big 12 championship game and I prop last year, and I think I watched 4 plays on the field. And it was like 4th and 1, 3rd and 1 at the 1 yard line. It's like, so yes, you're paying big time prices to look at it on a big TV set.
Right. No, I like got mad at myself. I'm like, I can watch this at home on the big screen. Quit looking up. I'm like making myself do this, watch the rest of the game. But the funny part is the players do it. If you look down at the field, there'll be guys at the sidelines standing there looking up because they can't help it either.
Well, especially when you come off on possession, when a defense comes off the offense, they go sit on the bench, and you got those, you got the clipboards and all that other stuff, and they're drinking the Gatorade. You can't see the game because everybody's in front of you anyway. The only way you can see the game is to look up on when you're on the bench. I mean, there's no other way you can. So yeah, I always find that real funny too. I really do. And I always find it funny seeing the trainers like between plays looking at the camera. And then as soon as the plays go over, you see them grabbing the Gatorade bottles, whatever, get to the job. But yeah, the Cowboys look pretty impressive here. I mean, it's, a lot of season to be played. We got an extra regular season game here, going down the stretch. And I tell people that's another opportunity, unfortunately, to have the injury bug kind of creep up on you also. It's a marathon now. It's not a sprint by any any stretch in the imagination. But, Cowboy fan, you got to be pretty pleased being 4-1. And there's a 2-game lead in the Drizzle, or is it 3 games? I think it's 3 games. No, nobody's got more than one victory besides it. Yeah, because the Giants got their first victory. Washington has 2 victories. I'm sorry. Yeah. So they have a 2-game lead over Washington. But anyhow, yeah, I mean, they look really impressive. Hey guys, I know we're getting close up the time here, but we do really appreciate you guys listening to us. Enjoy the postseason baseball. If anything, just enjoy the atmosphere that comes with it. Now, you won't get that much at Tropicana Field. That will be the only venue that you might not get it to be as loud as the others, because you might only have 35K there and 12,000 might be the other team. But, Dodger Stadium will be rocking tonight, especially with that storied franchise, the Cardinals coming in town. I mean, TBS has got to love having that St. Louis and LA market, going for them tonight. I mean, they really do. And I think one of the most underrated announcers around is Ron Darling. He'll be doing the broadcast here tonight. I mean, that guy is really, really, really good. He knows his baseball. But, I mean, heck, he's an Ivy League guy, so I guess he is pretty smart. He's pretty smart. Oh, but I didn't get who you thought was going to go to the World Series, Billy. I forgot.
I'm Astros Giants. I mean, I'm Astros Giants.
Right.
I can't believe I'm picking the Giants.
I hope you're right.
Well, no, I don't. I don't hope I'm right, because there's a part of me that wants to pick whoever wins tonight's playoff game.
Got you.
Dodgers or Cardinals to run the gamut.
Well, you can still pull for them. You can be a fan. I said I got the Dodgers and the Astros in this World Series. I don't want either one of them there. So I mean, yeah, you can still pull for them. Yeah, I just think that if you had me in Vegas, that's where I would be throwing my money to the guy at the sports book and saying Dodgers and Astros. That's what I would be saying. But that doesn't mean who I'm going to be rooting for. So I hope I'm absolutely taking an offer on my picks.
Okay. And then here's 2 other questions. Who would as a fan, who do you want?
Ooh, that's a good question, especially in the American League. In the American League, I have to actually say I would want the Tampa Bay Rays to be there again. I think that, and the reason I do that, I'm a fan of the way they run their organization. So That was the reason why. And being a Ranger fan is kind of hard to pull for the Stros. It's kind of hard for me to do that. But I would, if the Rays, and I want the Giants. Now, I know TV does not want San Francisco and Tampa Bay in the World Series. I know that for sure. But yes, that would be my 2 there, because I think the Giants have done an outstanding job of running their organization as well since they, moved in the Pac Belt at the time. I think that they've done an excellent job of having homegrown talent, not really going to free agent market all the time and trying to get their team there. In Tampa Bay, it's all homegrown talent, basically. So I'm a big fan of it that way. I mean, obviously I'm a Yankee fan, so that's total antithesis of what those two guys are. A
Right.
bunch of ill-fitting parts in that lineup and all high-priced free agents, every year. But yeah, I would love it to be that because I'm a big fan of young youth. I think the energy of young teams is what I really have an appreciation for.
Absolutely. Funny though, you bring up the Yankees and everybody talks about how they buy all their talent. And one thing Ryan Cashman's done an amazing job of is holding on to their young talent.
Yeah.
Did he make some trades this year? Yes. He traded some good young players to the Rangers.
Yes, he
To
did.
get Joe Gallo. And he might regret that because he's done a really good, but he's held on to their superstars.
Let me
He's
ask you
held on
this.
to the guys.
Do you think he makes that trade if he makes the Rizzo trade first?
Man, I don't know. Yes. Yeah, I think he does because I think at the end of the day, you look at the Yankees hierarchy. Their president still to this day makes decisions based upon what he thinks George Steinbrenner would do. And his name's Randy Levine, and I have the utmost respect for him because George hired him. George is who he is. I know this. Nobody knows this. He marched in Hal Steinbrenner's office this year, early in the year when the Yankees were struggling. He says, what would George do right now? He'd go find Billy, wherever the hell he was, and he'd hire Billy Martin right now to get this team turned around. So we can't hire Billy. Buck Showalter doesn't have a job. Buck was one of Billy's guys. Let's go hire Buck Showalter. Hal Steinbrenner said, I'm not my dad. I'm not gonna tilt the boat. I'm not gonna. And he stuck with. Obviously, we don't know what happened on the other side. The Yankees did turn it around.
Mm-hmm.
We'll never know.
Right.
What would have been right or wrong. But it's neat for me to see that because they have held on to their top guys, their top young guys, and those guys.
And it gave them some energy in August this year. Those young guys that came up, they gave them a lot of energy. It kind of spearheaded that 11-game winning streak that they had. The young guys. So, and I think that they've got a bunch of ill-fitting parts right now, and unfortunately, I heard a little of A-Rod last night. Well, that's another story, boy. He was brutal last night as an announcer. But anyway, God, he was brutal. But he did make one thing right. They are a feast or famine team. If they're not hitting the ball out of the park, they're not winning. And they've got to get rid of some of that. And I thought at the time when they got Gallo, I said, you're bringing another swing and miss guy to a lineup that's already got a bunch of swing and miss guys. They need some on base guys.
Well, look at the two Rangers they got. They got Gallo and Odor.
Yeah.
In that lineup every day. And between those two guys, you got one of three things every at bat. You got a home run, a strikeout, or a walk.
Yep.
It was like there was nothing else. And the batting average was going to be about 200. Okay.
And the Yankees would have liked Gallo to bat 200 for him. They would have liked that. He couldn't even hit 200 for him. And that before the game last night, I'll end with this. He had 188 at bats as a Yankee. He struck out 88 of those. 88 of those 188. That's mind-boggling to me.
It is. And I love analytics, and there's a big place for it. But at the end of the day, a hitter has a job to do. And that job is different every at bat.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just to get on base. Sometimes it's to move a guy over. Sometimes it's to knock in a run. But hitters today don't take pride in doing their job. They only take pride in hitting the big fly. And
exit velocity.
let's play the game. Let's do it right.
Do it right. I mean, the days of, how many times do you think Rod Carew hit behind the runner and he was still a 320, 330 hitter? He'd hit behind the runner and he'd take that out at first base, but he knew getting that guy to second base was that's how you're supposed to play the game. That's the way the game was done.
He did that to help his team. He unselfishly got 2 strikes now. I'm just gonna flick one over there and move him over and do what's best.
How high of Paul Molitor's average would have been if he would have taken the selfish approach at the batter's box?
I'm telling you. Right? I mean, it's really kind of aggravating too, because you can get up there on your first pitch, bunt him over,
right,
and you get the sacrifice. You don't get the AB, right?
Right.
But
right.
How many times do we see the guys you're talking about on purpose flick one the other way just to scoot a guy over, and they don't get the sacrifice for that? And that's a problem for me.
Problem for me. Different game, but we're both throwbacks. So the 16-year-old kid right now, all he wants to see is exit velocity. That's all he wants. That's all he cares about. Moonshot here, doesn't matter. I mean, as great as Stanton was last night, this is really not a deterrent to him. I mean, that ball he hit down pesky pole last night, his last at bat, was a thing of beauty and a meaningless home run.
And how close was he on 2 other at bats?
Yeah, the 2 other bats.
Literally easily had 3 home runs last night.
He tried to hit it through the green monster, I think, twice last night. I mean, but that's what the 16-year-old kid's talking about today, instead of that they got their heads handed to them yesterday because they couldn't play any fundamental baseball. I mean, Navaldi, I mean, they had 9 strikeouts before they took him out in 5 1/3 innings.
I thought they pulled the trigger kind of quick on the next great fireballer from Alvin, Texas.
Hey, believe me, it made me happy when Joey Cora took him out of the game. I was thinking, yes, let's get to this bullpen. Maybe we'll have better luck. Not so much, but that's another story for another day. It'll be a great off season up there in the Bronx, though. It's going to be a great off season because there's going to be a lot of movement. And they stayed under the luxury tax this year, so they'll go back down to where the lowest taxed in the luxury bracket now going forward. So, yeah, I have a feeling that there'll be a lot of money spent this offseason for the Bronx.
They got a lot of good young kids in their organization right now, too.
Yeah,
so,
they do. Well, I think that what they're going to do, I think what they'll really do, and I think they'll cut the fat finally with Sanchez behind the home plate. And I think that they may try to do something with Gleyber Torres, and I think they'll let Luke Voigt go. I think that's how they'll kind of clean up some of that mess that's in their order. The Brett Gardners, I don't think they'll have him back. I mean, unfortunately, they'll have Hicks coming back to them, who missed all year with that wrist injury. And play center field. That will help. That will improve your defense. But he's another guy. Yeah. And he's another guy that's a swing and miss guy too, a little bit. So, but I think that they'll allow maybe some of that young homegrown talent to at least have a shot in spring training to make the big league ball.
Yeah, I'd rather swarm on. I'd rather see some young guys get a real shot for them. They've got a New Jersey kid named Volpe playing shortstop.
Yes.
At Double A,
he played well when he got called up this year.
Yep. And like to see Gleyber needs to stay at second.
Yes.
I think he's better here there.
And I mean, you have, I think that you have spots available that are, third base is a question mark. If Glaber's going to play second base, what are you going to do with LeMahieu? Is LeMahieu a third baseman? I know he could play it. I don't know if, I don't have the analytics, on his range and all that at third base. I don't know if he's a liability there. I'm sure he's at least average.
Come on, they're gonna sign Chris Bryant, and you won't have to worry about it.
I know. I'm gonna lose more sandwich round picks to somebody. I know it's gonna be, and I mean, and the other thing is, what did they do at Boone? I think Boone got the most out of a lineup that was given to him this year. Frankly, I don't think you could have had Casey Stengel do much better with that lineup because they were just streaky.
What I don't know is, what I would love to know is how many calls he really gets to make.
Sure.
Is he just doing what the analytics tell him to do? Is he just getting a note and saying, right, all right, we got to make a pitching change? Or is he going with his gut? Because I think that's what's going on in Boston. I think Cora gets all the analytics, but at the end of the day, he gets to decide and make the call. And I think that's how it should be, to be real honest.
You make an excellent point, because I wonder how much control Boone has. Is the game already printed out for him before he even, the first pitch?
Well, look at it this way. That ball club's worth about over $3 billion, right? So let's say you owned a sports car worth $3 million. Right. Well, we're friends, right? And even though I've never driven a sports car before, would you throw me the keys and say, here you go, Billy, give it a run? I don't know.
Yo, probably not. I'll probably be on the phone with your insurance agent, making sure that you got a paid premium. Beforehand.
So I call Brian Castro my friend. I've known him since we were interns in the 80s. And, I'd heard the rumors they were going to hire Boone, and I called him up. I said, I have more experience than the guy you're about to hire. I've at least managed an independent league team. I mean, I don't think he's managed any team at any level. And he didn't think that was near as funny as you did. But
you're not getting experience in that ESPN booth on Sunday nights? Come on.
Yeah, I said, look, I can read a piece of paper. I can walk out there and make a pitch and change. Come on, Cass, hire me.
Oh, that's great.
I didn't get the job, but no, there's so much you got to deal with there.
Oh, absolutely.
As a manager, the press that's always trying to get you to say something that they can stick up your, what, the fans that are throwing batteries at you if you're not winning.
There's no bigger fishbowl in baseball. The only one I think rivals that is the fishbowl that's called Jerry's World. That's the only thing I think rivals that, in America.
Well, and I mentioned the Yankees president earlier, right? Well, guess who he went to business with and started a company to put the food in different stadiums all over the country. Legend Sports was started by the New York Yankees and the Dallas Cowboys. So there you go, Randy Levine and Jerry Jones.
And hence number 1 and 2 in value in North America and franchises. Shocker. Yeah. Well, hey guys, we appreciate you listening to us. We will be back next week. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Balls and Walls, please. We appreciate that. And FridayNightGlory.com. Billy, until next week, enjoy your sports weekend. OU Texas. Hopefully the good guys win.
All right.
We appreciate you guys. We'll be out.
Go Texas. Tex.
Stop video. All righty, good. Got it now. I know we went about 52 minutes today, 54, 5 minutes, but that's all right. I wanted to get that baseball stuff in before it started, the tournament. So yeah. And like I have a guy in Oklahoma said he loves listening.
Rangers.
Yeah. I had a guy in Oklahoma. Well, in the Rangers.
Well, that's what we got to figure out too. Where is our audience?
Yeah, I need to ask him that. I need to ask him where the audience is coming from. If it's all local, then we need to make sure we get some local flavor in it. But if it's not and it's spread out, then maybe more national.
Yeah, then we can't be homers, right?
Yeah, we need some more national stuff. That was really the only reason I wanted to say something about the shooting today, because I was thinking you might get more people just tagging stuff, because you could tag, shooting in Arlington or hashtag it when we put this out. People are going to come to it. People search stuff that way. They're going to see our two domes up there. They're going to say, what the heck is this? And they may click it. They may actually click it now. So, yeah. So I'll tell Brandon we probably need to do a hashtag to make sure. But, yeah, let's just think of topics. And like I said, we'll just shoot each other texts and say, hey, maybe this is something we can talk about next week, whatever. Whatever comes up, I'm glad we did mention. I'm glad we did mention Kershaw, though. I am glad that.
I am too.
I know that'll get some local buzz, and I know that, he's really highly regarded around here anyway. But I started thinking about that, saying, has he thrown his last pitch as a Dodger? I'm not, I'm not sure. Saying Tommy, no Tommy John now. They said that the sale, a year and a half ago. Oh, he's not going to need it. He's not going to need it. And he comes back in that August, and he needed Tommy John. So it just, heck, how that goes now with Tommy John anyway. That's if you don't have Tommy John now, they probably tell you ain't throwing hard enough. So
you'll love this part. So you remember Rob Crabtree? He used to close for the Rangers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Didn't he go to Cleveland too? Okay. Wasn't he in India?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yep. Yeah. He was in the Oakland or Toronto bullpen with a client of mine. And Gene Tennis was the pitching coach. Still might have been.